We're live.
Okay. Welcome to another edition of Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm Stephen Conway. With me, of course, is Jeremy Finestone. We're contributors to the Fight Game Media Network. This past week, we had a show in Taiwan that had some news coming out of it. We had a lot of matches announced, to the point that there's a blizzard of new lineups. Now, we're not going to make this a whole show about just reading off lineups. However, we are going to go over the title situations and where they are and what they're doing. We have a couple of Cork and Hall shows coming up next week. So, Jeremy, this time of year, it feels like a lot's going on. We've had some course corrections, what we think are course corrections, of course. And now we're seeing this Cork and Hall show, two of them actually, coming up this week. And then we have a pretty good roadmap of the company on the way to Best of the Super Juniors, and there's some intriguing stuff and a lot of shows with big title matches on top. They're spreading those out a lot, so it's almost a little dizzying looking at this lineup coming forward with all these matches coming and important cards. That it's tough to keep track of all this, but it should bring us some interesting cards and matches.
Definitely feel like my head is all over the place right now with all the information I'm trying to take in. I am excited for like LIJ versus Bullet Club feud, some of that coming up. We got the King of Pro Wrestling, we got the IWGP titles on the line, all the good stuff. We're underway. I'm excited and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and we have Colin with us. Colin, good to see you. Thank you for being here. And, it's just one of those things where we found out a few pieces of information that we do want to get to from the top. And one of them is that, as we expected, Yo, after dislocating his shoulder, is indeed out of the Super Juniors tournament. He was pulled, I believe, today. It might have been yesterday as far as the time difference goes. But either way, Yo has been pulled out of the Super Juniors tournament. His replacement has not been named yet. We will, of course, update you on that as soon as we hear anything. But Jeremy, we kind of figured that was going to go.
That was a gnarly injury.
It was. And the issue is in the past, they have had some injuries and they've brought in sometimes young lions, but I don't think that Shomakato or Murashima are ready yet because they aren't senior young lions. They're just getting going. And while they do have potential and they definitely have some talent, I don't know if Super Juniors is the right spot for either one of them right now in the right situation. So, they're at that stage in the young lion thing where they're doing very basic moves. Chain wrestling, body slam, Boston Crab, they have not expanded their moveset yet. So, I am curious to see who they bring in to fill that spot in Super Juniors. And Colin's already weighing in. He wants Ali or Speedball to replace Yo. Well, I'd love that too. I have a feeling if they could have gotten those guys, they would have.
They got dates already in TNA. It's possible that, Ali is there, but you got to imagine whoever is going to replace him is going to perform or have results very similar to that.
Yeah.
So,
which we kind of guessed, and we just guessed because we didn't see we haven't seen the blocks yet, so that tells us a lot. But we were guessing that Yo was probably going to finish middle of the package, somewhere in there, having already been through, we figure, a Super Junior title match that we believe he was going to lose. Hello, USVA guy. Glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. So, yeah, sad story there. We'll just have to keep an eye on see who they get to replace him. But, after that dislocation, not much doubt that was going to be the case. So, the other thing we have is, surprisingly, we have the next two IWGP World title defenses set. So, John, we're going to go over all these belts and things, but Jon Moxley is going to defend against Ren Narita on the second night of Wrestling Dontaku on May 4th. The winner of that match will then go on to defend against Shota Umino at Resurgence in California the following Saturday, May 11th. So another back-to-back on weekends for the IWGP champion, which hardly ever happened over the past few years. Now it's happened twice in a couple of months. Naito defended twice in 6 days. Moxley's going to defend. I'm assuming Moxley's going to defend twice. As that resurgence card looks a little less attractive with Ren Narita in the main event against Shooter than the classic mentor-mentee dynamic that Moxley and Umino has. So I'm assuming this is going to be a retention at Dontaku, but it'll probably be an exciting match because Moxley in Japan just works. So thoughts on this, Jeremy? I mean, we're moving quickly to Shota and Moxley, maybe a little quicker than I thought we were going
to. Shota has to lose to Moxley at some point before he has his big, conquering moment. But what I am concerned about is who Moxley's opponent is going to be at Dominion. Mm-hmm. And that seems like a big deal show with, if you're having a guy go over the former IWGP title in a feud adjacent to all this, and then he ends up getting a win over that guy, that puts him in contention, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Well, it is curious to see who's going to end up there in Dominion. I would imagine it is somebody, and I'm looking at the cards in Fukuoka, which is where Dontaku is taking place. Yeah, I mean, there really isn't an obvious special singles match where the winner would automatically jump up. You know what? I take that back. So think about this, Jeremy. I'm going to throw something out here. Wrestling Dontaku on Friday, May 3rd. Mm-hmm. There is a special singles match underneath Tanahashi and Nemeth. It is Yota Tsuji versus David Finlay. Could the winner of that one perhaps come out the next night? I'm just throwing out ideas right here because they have to do something for Dominion fairly quickly. So could getting that singles win there set up something for Dominion? That might not be a bad spot for David Finlay, really, to get a big main event as the heel. Doesn't necessarily have to win it either because, right now, Moxley's kind of one of those guys that anybody could lose to. So I'm not sure that out there.
I'm not sure because
I'm not either. I mean,
Shota will be the next guy in line. So if you're setting up the guy after Shota, before Shota even has his match, it seems like you're stepping out of order. So pay attention to whoever's on that resurgence card because that may end up being where we get our announcement.
Yeah, that could be. And we'll look at that resurgence card, of course. But I just thought that would be an interesting one if Finlay were to win that. He would be an interesting choice. Let's look at that resurgence card real quick and see what we have on that. So this is the resurgence thing. There's the Strong Survivor match. That'll be a minor thing. We will have... Yeah, there's not really an obvious one yet, but the card's not full yet.
What if Finlay gets a pin off of Naito?
Yeah, could be. That could be a win. So it could be Finlay might get the win over Tsuji, then maybe get the win over Naito, and just say I've beaten. There you go. Solved, everybody. We can all go home now. Thank you for watching. No. But that's how the IWGP title is shaking out. A lot of defenses, Jeremy. The IWGP champion used to only get in the ring about every other month, or not get in the ring, have a title defense every other month or so. Now we're coming in fast and furious.
Definitely doesn't feel like Moxley's going to be hanging out in New Japan for an extended period of time. Feels like they're shotgunning through his run real quick.
It might be just a matter of, we've got the guy for these dates. Let's use it. And you got, I think he helps sell tickets. There's no question he helps sell Chicago. Resurgence is in a smaller building than Wintrust. It's set up for 3,000. So far, they've sold about 2,000 tickets. And that was, this is according to WrestleTix, Twitter, which is really valuable if you're interested in this type of stuff. But they are about 2/3 full. And that was the last time I checked, just before they announced Shota Umino getting a title shot against the IWGP champion, whoever that may be. Mm-hmm. So I'll be curious to see if that gooses things along a little bit. The ticket sales have been fairly strong. I mean, $2,000 with only a couple of vague announcements. They mentioned that the strong titles will be defended, the world title will be defended. Now we have more information, and those tickets are starting to go a little bit. Moxley certainly helps with stuff like that. So I think that's a possibility there, but who knows? I mean, if he beats Finlay at Dominion, again, then that means they've decided to go with him basically to headline Tokyo Dome, probably.
It could go in a lot of different ways, but they don't have anyone else really hot or intent to heat up at an IWGP level. If you got Yuya, if you're new King of Pro Wrestling, you got Ren Narita already have a shot. Shota already has a shot. Yuta just had a shot. Yoda just had a shot.
You're right. They're going through guys really fast.
They're going pretty quick through this, man. They're going pretty quick through this.
Zach, drop that TV title quick. We're going to need you here for a second.
That would be a fun one when we get Zach in that main title picture.
Zach and Moxley would be a fascinating match.
Yes.
That would be a fascinating
Absolutely. I see that as being an outlier of a great match that shouldn't be, just because of their styles.
Yeah,
but I think they're just so good that it can't be bad.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. I'm confident in both of them that they could make it work. But it would be an interesting one to watch. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, Jeremy, now I will, and this is me enjoying a little crow here early on, 11 minutes into the show. I said when Tama Tonga announced he was leaving New Japan that I thought that maybe TNA was going to be his destination. When he went to WWE, I just thought, that's interesting. And I thought the only way this works out well for him is if, and then lo and behold, Tama Tonga knew what he was doing, because not only did he debut in the WWE, he debuted in the biggest program in WWE, basically part of the potential coup in the bloodline with Solo Sikoa trying to take over. Jeremy, you can't debut in a better spot than that. I mean, after all this stuff about Tama Tonga, suddenly leaving, and then we were kind of wondering, like, what's going on with that? And the dude either already knew what he might have had lined up, or things worked out perfectly for him. He is in a main event angle in the hottest company in North America right now. You got to be impressed. I am.
Wrecking shop in Japan for the last 15 years, what Corey Graves said. I mean, they sold the guy as being, top level talent. He came in a top level feud, and good for him. Good for him. And this is definitely indicative of like a new generation of WWE management, because that wouldn't have happened before.
Yeah, and I think that's part of my thing. I got to get out of the Vince McMahon mindset of, they're going to put him on NXT and, it's going to be Joe Gacy going over Tama Tonga. Because some of that is, he's a veteran. You can put him in there and he can help teach the guys and all that. No, they saw it's a thin transition from that bloodline to getting Tama Tonga in there, the son of Mang and Haku, into that whole thing. But that family tree is all over the place anyway. But it's curious. But I think they're going to make it work. And Tama Tonga's a talented enough guy, and maybe he and Sikoa can run wild for a little while. I was talking on The Wrap, which is a show that you and I both guest on more than I do these days. And I suggested that next time, that whenever, we knew that Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns is going to happen someday. We don't know when, but that it would be Roman as the babyface in it. He's going to be a monster babyface, by the way, after all this. And, Sikoa is going to be the heel in that. And he's going to need that backup too. And I'd imagine that Tama Tonga will be involved there. This could end up being the best thing he ever did, was suddenly leaving New Japan, even though it kind of left Ghetto a little shaken up.
It was a great career change for him. I'm very excited to see where he's going to go next. Steven, I apologize. I need to step away for just 1 second.
Okay.
Go ahead and cover what do you want to talk about? I'll set up the slide for you.
Well, why don't I just look at some of the title matches we have coming up, because we've gotten a slew of announcements. So what I'll do is I'll run down just where each title in New Japan is right now, what the next defense is, where it is, and then you and I can get back to analysis when we get back and we have the Taiwan show to talk about.
Thanks, guys. Be right back.
All right. So with Jeremy stepping away for a moment, let's take a look at that board now. We mentioned the World Heavyweight title. Again, Jon Moxley against Ren Narita Dontaku on Saturday, May 4th. That's a 2-night event. So Saturday, May 4th and May 3rd, May 3rd and 4th will be the next one at Dontaku. And then on Saturday, May 11th, he will face Shota Umino. I'm assuming Moxley, but the kayfabe point is the winner of Narita and Moxley will face Shota Umino at Resurgence in Ontario, California on May 11th. So after that, we have the Never Openweight title. The next defense of the Never Openweight title will feature Shingo Takagi against Gabe Kidd. That will be the same night as the world title match. So Shingo and Gabe Kidd on Dontaku Night 2, May 4th. And Gabe Kidd's going to be a busy guy. He's going to be involved a couple of times in this title rundown. So that's going to be the next thing with him. Gabe, of course, attacked Shingo after Shingo won the title back from Evil. The global title, that will be at Dontaku Night 1. So that's going to be Nick Nemeth finally getting his title match with Hiroshi Tanahashi. Nemeth, of course, said that he didn't want to defend the title until he got Tanahashi in the ring, someone he said he greatly respected. He did get a win over Tomohiro Ishii in a non-title match. That was a Windy City Riot, terrific match there, and ended up moving on to face Tanahashi, who's now back from injury and is a Never Openweight six-man tag team champion, which we'll get to in a bit. Also on Dontaku Night 1, we'll see Zack Sabre Jr. take on Jeff Cobb for the television title. So that's the 15-minute sprint match type of situation there. Dontaku Night 1, we'll see Zack and Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb is working through a storyline with the United Empire, where United Empire is on the downward spiral right now. They're losing a lot. They are coming up short in key situations, and Cobb and the Great Okan have both expressed frustration with TJP, who declared himself the captain of the United Empire. There's going to be something at Korakuen Hall that could be a turning point in that story. So that we might see some, not resolution, but a twist in that this coming week, and I think we will. So this match with Jeff Cobb could be pivotal also in that. This could be Jeff Cobb asserting himself as a potential leader, or it could be another loss for the United Empire, that type of thing. Will it be more of their downward spiral, or will it be part of their rise? You know how Geto likes to book factions. It's always darkest before the dawn, and he will beat somebody before they begin the upswing again. Moving on to the junior heavyweight title. That's going to be Sho versus Doki at Satsuma no Kunai on the 29th. So that is a show there that is coming up that also has a junior heavyweight tag team title match between Clark Connors and Drill Maloney defending against Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi. So Satsuma no Kunai on the 29th will feature the junior heavyweight titles. Heavyweight tag team titles, Bishamon, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto will have their rematch with Chase Owens and Kenta on Dontaku Night 2 on May the 4th. So a lot of title matches going on at Dontaku. Never Openweight six-man tag team titles. We're about to go over how this happened, but Toru Yano, Tanahashi, and Bolton, Oleg Bolton, the champions, against Evil, Yujiro, and Kanemaru. That'll take place April 23rd at Korakuen. So that is a match that's coming up this coming week. That's the Tuesday show at Korakuen Hall. Time to look at the strong titles. Next time, I mentioned Gabe Kidd will be busy. Well, he is going to be not only facing Shingo Takagi for the Never Openweight title, he's facing Eddie Kingston for the strong title at Resurgence May 11th in a last man standing match. We look at the strong women's championship. That's Stephanie Vaquer. She will be facing Alex Windsor at Resurgence. So the strong titles there. Strong tag team titles will not be defended at Resurgence that we know of so far, but they will be on the show in Hiroshima on April 27th. Now that's a week from this coming Saturday. Yes. And that is going to be TMDK against former champions El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. Also that night, we'll be talking about the details of this. The King of Pro Wrestling title, Great Okan versus Yuya Uemura. They have both announced their choices for stipulations for that match. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So going over that one, that show is going to be on NJPW World a week from Saturday, the 27th. So that's the King of Pro Wrestling title. And that gives you a look at where each of the championships are currently set. That is the champion, their next challenger. Heck of a lot going on the next couple months.
I feel like we are underway in a way that we haven't been through January to February with the goodbyes, and then the New Japan Cup, and then finally we took Windy City Riot to really just be like, okay, this is the playing field, and here we are, and I'm kind of here for it now, so that's good.
All right, so we've gone through those championship matches, and let's talk about how we got to some of this now. Wrestling World in Taiwan. Now, this was a show this past Sunday there, and I'm assuming that a lot of you have already seen this. So we're going to go on that idea, but we're going to talk about each of these matches because it was an interesting show. It was in a theater, basically. The ring was up on a stage. There were no ringside seats. Everyone was kind of down off of this platform there a little bit. So it looked like a concert venue or where you would have plays, probably concert. But it was a building held about 800, and it looked like it was pretty full. I was curious, Jeremy, when you go to a whole new country like this, are the audience going to be big fans of the product, or are they coming because they're curious about the product? This crowd seemed to know who everybody was, understood their signature spots. So there are some fans in Taiwan there, definitely. And we saw in the very first match a couple of guys from the Puzzle promotion, which is a puzzling name for promotion, but nevertheless, that's what it is in Taiwan, excuse me. And it's the show in Taiwan. And this was Toyu versus Axe Wong. And, you know, it was a very fairly quick affair, about 9 minutes or so. I thought Wong was athletic. I'd say that he's a prospect. He has a good build and a good look, and a little bit of charisma. Toyu ended up getting the win with an air raid crash move, but decent enough opener, nothing crazy about it, but it was entertaining enough. But Wong, I think, keep an eye on the guy. Good-looking guy, good build, athletic. Of the two, he's the one that stood out.
Yeah, this was a pleasant surprise. I felt like what was the other guy's name?
Toyu, Touyuu.
He stood out to me. I was kind of surprised he won, but you know, for an exhibition match, I had a good time with it.
Yeah. After that, they began a one-night tournament for the never openweight six-man tag team titles. So we got the semifinals in match 2 and 3 here. And the first one was Hiroshi Tanahashi, Oleg Boltin, and Toru Yano against the United Empire. So it's Callum Newman, Francesco Akira, and the Great Okan. The crowd was very happy to see Tanahashi. He probably got the biggest ovation of the night coming out. The fans clearly knew the signature spots, so that was when people did their stuff, they were right along there with it. Yano ended up getting the win over Callum Newman with a roll-up. The match was fine, and there's going to be a pattern to this. The match was fine. Nobody went crazy. Nobody really did anything dangerous, but it was more another loss for the United Empire. It got the baby faces into the finals, and there it was. They were telling a heel babyface story for the finals. So here's the babyface team, pure babyface team going over.
This was a lot of fun. I'm glad Tanahashi looks healthy again, you know?
Yeah.
And, wow, something's happened with Boltin Oleg, you know? And Toru Yano, he actually wrestled a match.
Yeah,
like,
he did.
This was wrestling for him. Like, he was...
Yeah.
This was not clown show to embarrass New Japan in front of an exhibition audience.
The next semifinal was the House of Torture, Evil, Sho, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru in this instance, against LIJ. And the LIJ team was Shingo, Yoda-Tsuji, and Bushi. And again, this match was mostly greatest hits. So nobody did anything nuts, but everybody got in their signature spots for this crowd. Bushi had the figure 4 lock on I believe it was Kanemaru when he was it was on Sho, I think, when he was hit with the whiskey, got the whiskey spit in his face. Then Sho, yes, it was against Sho because Sho then got up and hit the package pile driver on him after the whiskey spot while the ref was distracted. This had to be. They wanted to set up a pure good guy versus bad guy dynamic for the main event, so this one had to be House of Torture going over here, and Bushi's on the Super Juniors. Shingo's a never champion. Yoda has David Finlay, so LIJ's pretty good.
Yeah, this wasn't the most amazing match, I thought, but we were setting up, a typical good versus evil. I loved when Shingo couldn't find the camera to do its time.
He struggled a little bit.
He looked around a little bit. He's like, oh, I don't know. And then he looked to the wrong one. And then I'm like, oh, I never seen that one happen. Interesting.
Yes. Yeah, I ended up kind of doing it toward the crowd. They're like, well, You guys know what I'm doing.
Yep.
Up next, we had a Legends tag team match on one side. It was Satoshi Kojima and Tiger Mask. Now, again, this crowd were into the Legends more than a typical Japanese New Japan crowd because Kojima got a huge ovation coming out. Tiger Mask got a nice ovation. They faced Desperado and Shoma Kato. Went just over 10 minutes, and they did a Tiger Driver finish on Kato. Of course, as soon as he was in there, you knew who was taking the loss on this. But I thought Kato was pretty good in this match. Showed a lot of energy, did well. Step forward for him, I thought, and probably the reason he got the call over Murashima, the other young lion. So this was mostly, again, signature spot stuff for the most part. I mentioned the Tiger Driver finish, but they seemed to understand, New Japan did, that Kojima and Tiger Mask were going to be really over with this crowd. They seemed to get that and put them over appropriately. Just thumbs up, smart move.
Yeah, they really wanted to highlight Tiger Mask at the end afterwards to the thing. And that's really when I started to pay attention to, that ramp is really high for the stage in the ring. And okay, sure. This show was a lot of fluff, guys. This wasn't it was canonical in the way that a title was put on the show and all that. But this wasn't the greatest wrestling. This was to give everyone a flavor of New Japan rather than blow them away. Yeah, because I don't have much to say. It's not for any other reason that there's not much to say on these matches.
It was a lot of let's do our signature stuff and don't get hurt. Yeah. That's really what it was. All right, let's all come home healthy. Let's not get hurt, and let's give the fans just mostly happy endings, and just kind of show them the stuff that
Tanahashi, Shingo, and Evil were the stars of the show, and then everyone else and here's the rest of the card.
Now we did have a pretty good match here next. Starlight Kid and Hanako. That's a Stardom match, and SLK won the Sparks Championship while she was over in the United States. She had that belt with her. And made the quick trip. She was there the week after WrestleMania weekend, which, a lot of guys made it back in time, but a lot of travel for SLK. She was in the audience at WrestleMania and had an interesting tweet where she said, I wonder what it looks like from the ring up there after watching Io Sky. So I have a feeling a lot of the women from Stardom that got tickets and sat in the crowd in the chilly weather in Philadelphia, we're probably looking around just thinking it was made. Well, someone said that, I don't remember which one it was, so I apologize. Scott Edwards probably knows, but they were in tears a little bit, just thinking, wow, is it really possible this many people love pro wrestling? When you show them those possibilities, maybe we can get more things going over here with AEW and Stardom, Rossi's promotion, all that. It was a thrill for them, and she made it back to Taiwan for this one. There was a huge height difference on this. Hanako, I believe, is one of the tallest Joshis there is. She's among the very tallest. There might be a
very large, tall woman, yes.
And they played up the height difference there, but Starlight Kid is ahead of her. Hanako is basically a rookie. If not, she's in year 2, but very early in her career. SLK is a veteran, even if she's we believe in her early 20s. We don't actually know. She's keeping the luchador thing going where we don't have a lot of information on her, but we believe she's in her early 20s and a 10-year veteran. But she won with a roll-up in a pretty good match there, and it was just a nice little showcase for Stardom on the card.
Yeah, it was a good one. Good.
Junior heavyweight title #1 contendership match. Now, we saw this angle after Sho and Yo had their very truncated match. It was where Sho got injured, and both Doki and Kosei Fujita came out to challenge Sho. So they're going to wrestle each other here for the right to challenge. This was another really good match. Kosei Fujita is going to have his day. As a matter of fact, he's going to have a lot of days. I think that guy's going to someday be a fairly long-term IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. I think he's that good. It's not quite time yet, so when Doki won with the Suplex de la Luna, I felt that was probably the correct decision.
I thought it was always going to be Doki. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yes, I felt like it was going to be as well. But make no mistake about it, Fujita will be probably the ace of that division someday. When we get past Hiromu and we get past Desperado, this guy's on that level.
Who he reminds me a lot of? Taiji Shimori.
Well, that's interesting. Okay.
He reminds me a lot of a younger version of him, but more, I don't know, assured at that age. Like, if you know what I mean, like, I feel like we're seeing a cocky Taiji Ishimori just by the way that he moves, the way that he wrestles, his attitude, and basically his ego. Like, he has a huge ego.
I'll tell you what, his Fujita, if he went full heel, there's another guy too, maybe some New Japan fans will recall him, or should anyway. He was a hell of a good junior heavyweight. It was Koji Kanemoto.
Yes.
And that was a guy in the 90s that could play the really cocky, almost jerk heel. And if Fujita wanted to turn that side of him up to 11, I think he could be a Koji Kanemoto type. And Kanemoto had a hell of a career. So he's had other tag team partners. My favorite was Shinjiro Otani when Otani was a junior. They were a fantastic team. Anyway, Doki will get the next shot, as I mentioned in the rundown earlier. This was a terrific match. Sho attacked after, and then Doki laid him out with a spinning divorce court off his shoulders, which was a nod to the Yo injury there, and took the belt again. Poor Sho. I mean, he won this belt or stole it or whatever, and he has not possessed the actual championship belt for much of that reign. It seems like whoever is challenging him ends up making off with it every doggone time.
Every doggone time. Sorry, I got distracted with something else. Let's move on to the next match. I apologize, everybody. I am not on my game today, and I promise you I'm going to get better at it as we're going. This is an outlier day. Bear with me.
That's fine. We understand. The IWGP Tag Team title match was up next. So Bishamon, of course, the new champions after defeating Chase Owens and Kenta. Chase and Kenta have a rematch coming, but in the meantime, they face Sanada and Yuya Uemura. This match was fine. It was not the 100% effort of anyone involved. Yoshihashi ended up winning it by blocking a deadbolt suplex, kind of pushed Uemura into the ropes and held him for Goto, who lariated him into the ropes. And then it was a roll-up for Yoshihashi. So they didn't even hit Shoto on him. It was just kind of a quick little finish there, although the match went 20 minutes. It was good. Did not pull out all the stops. It was another one of those things where let's have a good match, let's entertain the people, show them our usual stuff, don't get hurt. But they didn't do their usual finish, which surprised me. I suppose they didn't just want to beat him like that. Maybe that decisively. Protection, yeah. There was a little bit of a roll-up there for Sanada and Uemura. But Bishamon get their first title defense of this reign and move on to face the former champions. But as far as it goes, very clear at this point, if it wasn't already, that everyone was in third gear out of 5.
Yes. This was when I was like, oh yeah, this is a popcorn show. I mean, it was earlier. I felt like the Stardom match was like third gear as well, but the aura and the excitement of the match kind of carried it if you weren't examining it too technically. But this one was the one where it was like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what we got here.
After that, we had the final of the never openweight 6-man tag team title tournament. So this was, again, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Oleg Boltin, and Toru Yano, and they faced the House of Torture. So it was all heat early on Tanahashi and Yano. They would get cheap shots in on Boltin to keep him out of it. But Boltin didn't sell a ton. He got knocked over there a lot, just knocked off the apron a lot. He was they did the comeback. Yano dealt with the whiskey from Kanemaru and got it away from him. Hit a double low blow on Kanemaru and Evil. They should have known better, Jeremy, than to use whiskey with Toru Yano. Reason being, that used to be Yano's gimmick when he was in the MVPs, the most violent players, with Togi Makabe. Yano used to have the bleach blonde hair. You remember, how he used to take the water and blow it up in the air, and then he was doing it with the little spray bottle, which was allegedly hand sanitizer after the pandemic. Yano used to do that with whiskey. He used to be like take a swig of whiskey and then blow mist like he was the Great Muta with it or something like that. So, you can't get a hard drinker like Yano with the whiskey. It totally backfired on him. So, got him back to taking that gimmick. Boltin hit the kamikaze, and then Tanahashi hit the high fly flow. So it was a correct finish for this crowd. They were most excited to see Tanahashi anyway, so they got to see their hero hit his high fly flow and win. And what we have here is a young lion with a championship belt. We've been saying for months that they are treating this guy very differently than other young lions. He's a champion now, is still as a young lion, and he took a pic on his Twitter with, I believe it's his daughter, with the never open weight belt, and that was incredibly cute. and big smile on Bolton's face. They also gave him a jacket. You know how Tanahashi and Yano, their tag team is Toru and Hiroshi is apparently a big manga, a very famous manga. And they have jackets made that kind of a nod to that manga. And they had a jacket.
Little coat. He actually got a young boy coat, and he's too big for a young boy.
It was way too small for him, which was part of the fun. And Bolton was smiling and all that. But sure enough, man, we got a young lion with a championship belt. Granted, never openweight 6-man, probably the lowest belt in the totem pole. But it is something we don't see much at all.
Yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised to see that they went with this. Tanahashi back with the never titles. The whole deal, it's like he's going to have a belt. He's going to be, him and Nemeth are going to have a match. That's going to be interesting. The way that, the homogenization of these belts, keeping them separate suddenly doesn't feel quite so important in New Japan right now.
USVA guy brings up something that I should have mentioned. He says, I died laughing at Show when HOT came to the ring for the main event. They drug Show out there like he was injured from Doki's spinning divorce court earlier. Of course, as soon as he saw an opportunity, Show slid in and was just fine and started attacking the baby faces. But they did a whole production of Show barely able to walk somehow with a shoulder injury, and then setting him down at ringside in a middle folding chair, and let's take care of him. He's badly hurt, and then of course first chance he gets.
All right, Steven, I'm going to do the live read real quick before we move on to our next thing, all right?
Fire away.
Steven, we are members of the Fight Game Media Network. You can find a selection of our shows on all audio podcast catchers with shows that include The Wrap, The Dynamite Show, The 5-Star Joshi Show, Popcorn Pile Drivers, and various newsworthy pay-per-view and PLE recaps for WWE, AEW, and New Japan. You can also find our Speaking of Strong Style on its own separate podcast feed if you so choose to follow that way. We also, you can see, have a YouTube channel that succeeds more and more from the feedback you provide. So if you like what we do here live on Xbox every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, Powerbomb shows every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, the Dynamite Show following every AEW Dynamite, 5-Star Joshi Show content, and live presentations of pay-per-view and PLO recaps, subscribe if you're listening for the first time, or just hit that like button for the show to pop up again until you're sure we're the team for you. We thank you for every minute you spend with us, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoy the time with you. Steven, the live read is over, and it's back to you.
And, of course, if you're listening to us as a podcast, please rate us, give us a review, all that kind of stuff. It all helps people find the show. And best way is word of mouth. If you have any New Japan curious friends, by all means, let us know. Let them know about us. We're happy to have you along. And, of course, again, big thanks to Josh last week for joining us after Josh from We Work Stiff. Another very fine podcast, very storyline-centric podcast that's some deep thinking on New Japan. I really enjoy it. He joined us for the Windy City Riot reaction show, so make sure you check that if you haven't heard that yet. That's on all of our feeds. So yeah, good stuff. And as we go through this Taiwan thing, we look at the week ahead. So going back out on tour starting Saturday, the road to Dontaku picks up again, and they will be at the Machida Gym in Tokyo on Saturday, April 20th, and then Nagano on Sunday. But those shows aren't on NJPW World as it stands right now. We will see Monday and Tuesday at Korakuen Hall on NJPW World. So Monday's show, we will go to now and take a look at it. So you have slides for this one, or should we just go over the line?
The Monday show, no, I just have the 22nd.
Not a problem. Let's take a look at Monday, April 22nd. Here we go. So most of the stuff is heavy. Everybody in the world is on this show. I think you're booked on it, Jeremy. You got a match on this.
Yes.
The entire company. So the match with the fewest number of people is the opening one, and it's a 6-man tag. So, I mean, this is just going to be a slurry of names, but basically it is starting off with Chaos and Murashima, the other young lion, it's not Shomakato, against Bullet Club. Then you get the GOD teaming with Taguchi. They're taking on TMDK in the second match. After that is the Hantai group. That's Tanahashi, Ishii now, Umino, Bolton, and that's going up against the House of Torture. Fourth match, LIJ, the whole fan family, against the War
The fourth
Dog.
and final match at this point.
Well, the fifth match, and there are only 5 because everybody in the world is this is a faction warfare gauntlet match. And this is the one where we have a bit of an angle alert. And I'll explain what I mean. We have just 5 guys, all 5 of them, against United Empire. Now, it's just about all of them. So it's Jeff Cobb, Great-O-Khan, TJP, Francesco Akira, and Callum Newman. Faction Warfare. I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm going to bring up my notes. The way Faction Warfare works is it begins as a 10-minute singles match. If it ends in 10 minutes, the winner stays, the loser is eliminated, the losing team sends another man in. If it goes the full 10 minutes, if any of the matches go a full 10 minutes, both men are eliminated. Okay? And then that goes until we're left with only one on the side. So that's how it's going to work. So series of singles matches instead of 5-on-5,
right,
so to speak. It's not a tag match. Faction Warfare. Here's the thing that's interesting about this one, Jeremy. We've seen this ongoing escalation of tension within United Empire. TJP declared himself the captain. The results haven't been there. Great-O-Khan has expressed a lot of frustration with TJP about that, saying, United Empire, Will Ospreay and I formed it. It was supposed to be a collective. Now you're the captain. Now we're losing all the time. Jeff Cobb said some things on commentary with Walker Stewart that expressed that maybe he wasn't real thrilled with what he was seeing. The reason I bring this up is, of course, Gedo, as the New Japan booker, likes to take these guys all the way down to the ground before he starts to build them back up again. TJP is, as of this recording, not scheduled for the rest of the tour, although various combinations of United Empire guys are.
Mm-hmm.
So the United Empire is continuing on in tag matches, 6-man tags, even 8-man tags. But TJP is a part of none of them after this. Could this be the spot where we see some kind of angle where TJP either turns on them, they kick him out? It could go either way in that direction. But
so you're saying this is the last time he shows up before Best of the Super Juniors?
Yeah, right now.
At this point.
Yes, looking at the rest of the road to Dontaku.
The cards are not full, and they
Correct.
could have a reveal on those cards as to why they're not there, with some people here or there. But you might be onto something there, my man.
So that could be it. So keep an eye out for that. And you know how these things go. When they do 2 nights of Cork and Hall, they like to do a little something special in there. And especially when you're coming up on a big show like Dontaku, they like to throw something in Cork and Hall shows. And just something to keep an eye out for. I thought that was an interesting outlier that the rest of United Empire, book. You don't see TJP's name on any of the other cards. So something to look out for.
You're not wrong. And when you pointed that out to me privately in the middle of the week, I was like, shit, he's on to something.
We'll see. I mean, it might just be a regular thing and then it's nothing. But I think I got it. Tuesday, April 23rd, that's the next Cork and Hall show. So back to back. And we're going to be seeing a very similar card in some ways to, a similar opener, rather. It's Shoma Kato, the young lion this time, teaming with Bishamon against the Bullet Club. Then we're going to get GOD teaming with Desperado and Taguchi against TMDK. Third match is actually going to be the never openweight 6-man tag team championship match, and that is Bolton, Yano, and Tanahashi facing Kanemaru, Yujiro Takahashi this time in place of Sho, and Evil. So that's going to be a never openweight tag match there. The story being that House of Torture wants their rematch immediately. I would imagine this probably ends poorly for Yujiro Takahashi. I certainly don't see them being one and done after only about 10 days with the belt. So this feels like a championship retention, doesn't it?
I'm feeling retention of this as well, in all honesty. Why would you? I don't know. It seems weird, and I agree with you, and I don't know why they would do this, although we have said that a couple of times about other matches, and then they've immediately flipped the titles. So, I can't say confidently, but I feel like you don't want to cut off the momentum for Bolton Oleg right now.
And this story, this whole never openweight 6-man tag story, feels like a Bolton story. It feels like that's what this is about. Because obviously Tanahashi has his global match, and that's coming. Toru Yano. He's there for, to do his shtick, basically, on the shows, and that's why he's there. So the reason for putting these titles on them, the only reason this is interesting is because it's Bolton. Because it's a young lion holding this belt. So that is to me, the story, and it's way too early to end that yet. And I don't see them just putting it back on House of Torture. So I am curious to see if Oleg ends up getting the pin or if it's somebody else. How far are they going to push things with him as a young lion before they just say he's not a young lion anymore?
I think there's a reign here that either ends with a graduation or a defection. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I feel like you said, he's the crux of the story, and it's time to just see where they go with it. By the end of the year, Bolton Oleg might be a force to be reckoned with in New Japan Pro Wrestling, if not already.
After that, we have a series of 30-minute special challenge singles matches between LIJ and the War Dogs. Now, there are a lot of clashes between these two groups coming up in various forms. So the first one is Yoda Tsuji against Geto. I don't think people are going to take too many bets on this one. I think we know who's going to win that. After that one, Bushi versus Gabe Kidd. Same. So I have a feeling it's going to be 1-on-1 after those two. So after that, we get to see it gets a little more interesting. Shingo Takagi against Park Connors, which I think should be a hell of a match.
I'm so excited for the 5-on-5, for the 1-on-1-5. Yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, Drilla Maloney against Tetsuya Naito, which feels kind of fresh to me. I'll enjoy that.
These all feel fresh. That's the great thing about it. They all feel fresh.
And then after that, we will have David Finlay and Hiromu Takahashi. So
he of the losing streak, Hiromu Takahashi.
Right, and that is what I predict as well. That will continue because the whole story, I think, is that he's going to go into Best of Super Juniors ice cold. But Finlay, I feel like, is on the way.
Running through all of LIJ at some form or another through this entire feud.
Could be. Could very well be. But there it is there. And that's going to be Korakuen Hall. So a series of singles matches to finish it off there. And some interesting ones. Like I said, you kind of have an idea who's going to win these. And, they could always do things like interference and have an upset or some little, low blow and a roll-up. Certainly, you could do that. I'm not arguing the point. But either way, it's fresh matchups, which I appreciate.
I'm right there with you. Like, the freshness of all this is, hate to use the fresh, breath of fresh air. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So after that, they move on to a couple more house shows full of preview tags. Then they go to Hiroshima a week from Saturday. That one's going to be on NJPW World. And I mentioned there will be a couple of title matches there. That's where you're going to see the King of Pro Wrestling title match, for instance. Also where you're going to see the Strong Tag Team title match between TMDK and Phantasmo and Hikuleo. So, the King of Pro Wrestling title. Now, we have the two sets of stipulations offered up by the contestants. The voting will be going on for a couple more days. And have you seen these, Jeremy?
The what again? I'm so sorry.
The stipulations for the King of Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, I have loose ideas of it. I pulled the tweet, which we're getting another rural revitalization match, huh?
Well, that is what was offered up by Great Okan. So let's start with Uemura's. He wants catch rules. And by that, he means this. I thought this was intriguing. A 61-minute time limit match. Not 60, 61.
You've been learning from everybody else. It's that last minute that'll get you. So maybe
there you go.
Add a minute to it.
Yeah. Best of 3 falls. No strikes allowed. Only throws and submissions. So he's going into I'll play your game, Great Okan. They say that he's a world champion in 8 different disciplines or something silly. But he says, all right, you want to do submissions and throws? I'll do submissions and throws. So that is his offer. Great Okan, like you mentioned, rural revitalization. So this show is going to be taking place in Hiroshima. So Great Okan said, well, what is Hiroshima known for? And he came up with Mazda cars and lemons.
Sure.
Okay.
He kind of out of his mind.
At least he's not going to try. He learned a little bit. He's not going to try to eat like 10 pounds of okonomiyaki or anything like that.
Now they're just going to slip on motor oil during a minimal match.
Well, here are the best of 3 scenarios. The scenario he came up with for the best of 3. The first, bring 4 car tires into the ring. That wins the first fall.
Okay.
So, Mazda,
you have to put them on a post each or just bring in 4 tires?
I don't know. You just have to bring 4 to the ring. I'd imagine they probably have some sort of post or something you got to wrap around. I don't know. 4 tires in the ring. Second fall, a lemon eating contest. Third, if it goes to a third fall, a tables match.
It's going to a third fall.
Of course, it always does. So, if Uemura's rules...
oh no, somebody's going to trip on a tire and go through a table.
If Great-O-Khan's rules win and Uemura loses, we're getting very complicated with the steps here, but this is what comes out of these press conferences. He has to drive a Mazda car and buy 100 lemons for the Great-O-Khan, 100 Hiroshima lemons. Now, I'm assuming in Japan, the whole connotation of a car being a lemon is not part of this, because I don't think they would want to associate Mazdas and lemons if they're trying to have good relations with that company anyway. But for those, maybe people around the world don't know, because I know we have some people watching from outside the United States and listening. But a bad car, if you buy a car, drive it off the lot, and it immediately breaks down, you bought a lemon, is the term. So now they're over here just saying, the cars and lemons all together in this. It doesn't seem like it's a good recipe for a sponsorship deal, but we'll go with that. And then the other thing is, what is it? If Uemura's rules win, the loser has to buy 20 Hiroshima oysters for the winner. Thank God they're not trying to do an oyster eating contest, because you do not want those sitting around the locker room for 2 hours any more than you want the octopus. It was eel that they didn't do in the last one. So this feels set up to be another Great-O-Khan rural revitalization project type of match, just so they can do something particularly silly, doesn't it?
I don't understand this iteration of the King of Pro Wrestling. I really don't. I know that they're trying to, bring attention to the economy and, economy. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to make something out of this, but an hour of this match going into headlining a show is gonna be painful.
I don't know any other way to say it, too. I agree with you.
100% lower your expectations going into this so that you can be pleasantly surprised came out of it. Do not have high expectations.
Yeah, and that, thankfully, it's the second from the top, so they don't have to leave with that taste in the mouth. There is an elimination match on top in Hiroshima, and that'll have LIJ against the War Dogs. So that'll be.
I feel like there's going to be a couple of quick eliminations in this one, my man.
Yeah, Ghetto, Drilla Maloney, Clark Connors, Gabe Kidd, and David Finlay on one side, Bushi, Hiromu, Yota Tsuji, Shingo, and Naito on the other. So in Hiroshima, of course, that's Naito's home away from home. There will be an elimination match there with, it says no time limit. So, but there are, how many matches? That's 8. There are 8 matches on the show, so it shouldn't go that long.
And this would be where Finlay pinned Shingo.
Yeah, could be. Absolutely could be. Yeah, I mean, it could be there. I think, as we are guessing that David Finlay is on the build for a future title match, then I think he's going to be beating a lot of big names going forward. So that could be.
You want to break into Tatsumi no Kuni, or you want to wait for next week?
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at it. I mean, this is one of these weeks we talked about the show in Taiwan. It was a safe show. There wasn't a ton coming out of it except for the 6-man tag title thing. So.
Might be an hour-long show today, guys.
We might have a shorter show this week with more to come. So, Satsumi no Kunai is coming up, and that one is going to be, I'm bringing it up now, in Kagoshima, at the Kagoshima Arena on Monday, April 29th. So we'll preview this one hardcore next week. But we will see the 2 young lions up first, and then some previews. But the main gist of this is going to be the junior heavyweight titles on the line. So we will see Doki challenge Sho. We will see Bushi and Hiromu take on the junior tag champs Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors. And it's an interesting one, Jeremy, because just before this, the 6th match is Geto, Gabe Kidd, and Dave Finlay against Tsuji, Takagi, and Naito, which would indicate that Geto is going to get beat because he always does, right?
Uh-huh.
Before that, that's what I mean. There's just a lot of it's Ishimori, Owens, and Kenta against Taguchi, Yoshihashi, and Goto, and they're trying to build the challengers for that one. So I don't really see Bullet Club losing that. I do see them losing to LIJ in that 6-man, but after that, I mean, are they really going to do a show where 3 of the last 4 matches end with heel finishes? But unless Doki upsets Sho or LIJ upsets Maloney and Connors, that's what we might get.
I kind of see Geto getting pinned in the 6-man.
Certainly.
And then you can have Bullet Club win the top 2.
You could. Maybe just have that one be the guitar. And then before that,
you could go all 3. You could really just put the dominance of Bullet Club right now. You know, it does seem interesting that it feels like there's less and less restrictions on Maloney right now with that bicep.
Right. Yeah, he's on almost every night. He's booked almost every night. So that's going to be. So that's
unless he's replaced with somebody else.
No, I think he's there. So there you go. So that's Satsuma no Kunai on Monday, April 29th. And that one we should have on NJPW World as well. So. And then after that, they do a couple of more Road 2 shows in Kumamoto and Oita before going to Fukuoka, to the convention center for 2 nights of Dontaku. So next week, I will delve more into those cards as they approach.
Exciting times.
So, with that in mind, like I said, a short show this week. We didn't have a ton of news right there from New Japan except these match announcements. But it gives us an idea of where they're headed. I still feel strongly that there were course corrections in here. It's almost like they changed their mind on a couple of things and just decided, what were we thinking about? Let's get that thing off of Evil, get the Never title away from him. We shouldn't have taken the thing off of Bishamon. That was a bad move. Unless they just did it to give the crowd a title change, which I suppose you could do with tag team both.
When Geto looked at the landscape and said it would be better if these guys had it, I look forward to see how that plays out, because we had pathways and stories that we could have gone with the other guys, but he felt like he had something better if he did it this way. So I do trust Geto. I do feel like there is a freshness to what he's got going on now that's been lacking since Wrestle Kingdom, and the criticisms are valid, but beyond the importance of Windy City Riot and the fluff of Wrestling World, I feel like the landscape again has been set, and we are on the road to the rest of 2024 in Japan.
The thing I'm most curious about this week that we will probably lead with next week is the whole United Empire story, because it just smells like something's coming there. And we will have to see how that turns out. If it's TJP just turning and walking away from the group, saying up yours, or if it's them flat out kicking him out after another loss or something, it's the next thing. And they've been spending a significant amount of time on this, through backstage comments and things going on in the ring. So whatever happens, I think it is going to have repercussions. It's not going to be just a little thing, there it was, it's over now. I think that this one will probably have a significant effect on Super Juniors. And I'm hoping also that at some point in the very near future, we get the blocks for Super Juniors. I don't know if it's going to be a Corkin, or if if it'll be on the Road to, or if they'll do it at Dontaku, but I would like to see the blocks here. But that is going to give us a lot more information on who they have in mind for the finals. And
do you think they'll do 2 blocks of 10 or different 4 blocks of 5?
Probably. Didn't they do 2 blocks of 10 last year? I don't know if they've gotten as elaborate with this. Yeah.
No, they did. It made more sense to do it that way. I figured I'd ask before we go home.
Keep G1 unique.
Yeah, for sure.
Set it apart right there. They haven't even announced that G1 is doing that, although it looks like date-wise that it works out that way.
All right, Steven, let's take this thing home. Appreciate everything.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So we'll wrap this one up a little bit early today with in mind there'll be plenty of times we go long, so we'll go a little short today when we can. But I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in and watching us live here on do you tune into YouTube? I guess you log on to YouTube. And for those
checking us out live.
For those of you listening on the podcast, we greatly appreciate all of you for taking your time listening to Speaking of Strong Style. So with that in mind, we will see you at our usual time next week. For Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This has been Speaking of Strong Style. We'll talk to you again real soon.